It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, April 15th. Your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that just can't do the scenario math for the playoffs now, but at least the Flyers have put something in their own hands.
I'm not sure of that.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. New intro there. If you,
Nappy, I like it.
yeah. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology. We are at Locked On Flyers on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky as well. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. You can find us over on YouTube or on the SiriusXM app or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. One more game to go, Russ, before the end of the season. The penultimate matchup against the New Jersey Devils, a 1-0 shutout. Sam Ersson clearly is riding out the remainder of the season here, and I think that's the right move.
It is the right move. I mean, there was no reason to go back to Fedotov, and he's playing well. But that game, boy, we were all complaining about how boring and uninspired it was, and it really, I could tell you that the Flyers won't be playing a Washington team that is just kind of laid back like that and willing to play a ugly, boring game. They're not going to do it.
Yeah, it was interesting because given the stakes, Tortorella decided to play none of the younger guys in this one.
Yeah.
So Atkinson was in, Johnson was in. So,
And Atkinson was bad. Like, he had a bad penalty.
Yeah.
Like, again, John is just falling on these vets, and it's not the right move. It's really not. It's just going to make things safer for him in his mind. But again, that Atkinson penalty could have been, the one that got the game tied. Like, it's just, I don't think he's looking at it the right way. I mean, honestly, Eric Johnson, the best play he made was when he fell on the puck. When the Devils were swarming.
That was actually a good play.
It was a good play, but that was his best play. Like, there's something wrong if I'm saying that that's a guy's best play.
Yeah, it was interesting because, they got the job done in the end.
But
I found it to be interesting just if you put it in concert with what Tortorella said post-game about how important it was to get guys used to important games like this and intense games like this in the thick of the tail end of a playoff race, and he wants guys to learn, but the guys that really need to learn that are the future weren't playing. Yeah. And, you can say, well, they won, so it doesn't matter. I think it does to some degree. I think it does in the sense that if, at the very least, if you just put Lixel in there instead of Atkinson, I think I would have been much happier.
Yeah,
even if Haddard and Jennings were sitting, I think that would have been okay by me.
It still wouldn't be okay by me, but I would have been a little happier. But it still wouldn't have been okay.
Yeah, I just think it is a choice, and it's working for him in terms of the outcome. But short term, but it's certainly making the playoff race more fun and interesting and confusing mathematically.
Confusing
like
is
I said,
a great word. Oh yeah.
But we'll get to that a little bit later. Want to talk more about the game itself. We had Scott Laughton's 600th NHL game. That's I can't believe he's been around that long.
Yeah,
but
that's crazy.
Travis Konecny 400th NHL point in this one, and the two of them continue to have excellent chemistry on the penalty kill, and it's just honestly been one of my favorite things to watch all season long is the two of them and what they do. Of course, Nick Seeler had a lot to do with that play,
Yeah.
to get the one goal in the game, but the two of them just have this thing that clicks on the penalty kill, and it has been a joy to watch all season long.
It was an interesting one. I mean, I wouldn't have guessed that a shorthanded goal was going to win the game. I wouldn't have guessed that at all. I felt like the offense was not great. They missed a lot of nets. They're playing against the backup goalie. I just felt like they didn't want it enough, or they just can't. This is all they got. And if this is all they got, that's worrisome because the Caps got a little more. All these teams seem to have a little more.
Yeah, I do think the goaltending for the Devils was especially good in this game, like beyond what I would have expected. But there is that continued lack of finish there. I don't
Yeah,
deny that. It was a pretty low event game overall on both ends of the ice,
oh,
to
for
be
sure.
honest. And
Yeah.
it feels like a typical Devils kind of game.
Well, see, to me, it
Even
doesn't.
though
They're a more
even
high
though their
offensive
game
team. Yeah,
yeah, their game has changed a little bit, but
yeah,
without Hughes there, this is the kind of game that maybe they're falling back on a little bit. Uh,
maybe.
but I just because of the lack of shots that they got too. So but I do think that Travis Konecny, being sort of at the top of his game and riding that edge that he likes to in terms of style of play, I've said it before, I'll say it again. So goes Travis Konecny, so goes the Flyers, because
Yeah.
this was another prime example of him playing his game, and he gets the goal out of it. And I think that he has continued to show leadership out there.
No, there's no question. He's shown leadership and fire and tenacity, and he's definitely doing it. I just, again, the amount of block shots where they have over 20, like it's just we'll see. We'll see what they have left in their last game. Like I'll be interested to see that because I saw guys limping around again during that game. So, I was I was listening to the Washington game and they were dead and buried and then they came back. And that's the thing. When you're like that, you do have to worry about that.
Yeah, and, of course, we have to talk about Sam Ersson
Yeah.
in this game because, again, and even Torts mentioned it post-game, when you have a low event game, it's sometimes harder for goaltenders, and, Sam Ersson played a perfect game, I think, for him, and, Torts also mentioned that this was his 50th game in net this season, which, when you have a guy at the beginning of the season they expect to play 20 games or so, play
Yeah.
50, that is a huge difference. And, with everything that went on, Torts could not have enough good things to say about Sam Ersson, and it's deserved because this is just a whole different season than Sam Ersson expected to play. And, he talked about post game just sticking to his routine and saying, less is more, which I think there's something to that with goaltending, that you don't want to change things up
Hmm.
until you know for certain that there's something horribly wrong that you need to change. And, he is dependent on his routine and his style, and he came back to it, and it's been working the last couple of games.
Yeah. He's really rolled with it. And that's been great. And I think he made 3 or 4 tough saves. I don't think there was any, but I will say, do I think he played his best game? I don't, because there was a lot of pachinko going on in front of the net, especially in the third period, that I just felt like, and I think
Yeah.
a lot of us felt like, oh, this is getting tied up, and it just didn't, right? And so, Lady Luck fell on his side. Besides playing, a solid game, he definitely played a solid game.
Yeah, and I do think, they did block an inordinate amount of shots, but
Yes.
defensively, otherwise, I think they stepped up a little more. It did help not having Hughes there on the other side, just in terms of, plays on the rush and,
Oh yeah.
you know, give and go kind of plays that he would normally
Yes.
be a part of, that I think the Flyers might have had a little bit more trouble with. But that being said, I think that defensively, the Flyers really stepped up here, and kept the Devils off the score sheet.
They did. They did. They did their part for sure.
All right. Well, there's a lot of other parts that have to fall into place. Plus, they honored Wayne Simmonds. We're going to get into both of those topics coming up next.
Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
It's Locked On NFL Mock Drive Laugh Time on April 17th at 7 Eastern, streaming on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel over on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Find the Ultimate 6-episode series on April 17th at 7 Eastern to hear who the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise with live reactions from local college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. The Locked On NFL Mock Draft on April 17th at 7 Eastern, streaming live on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel over on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. On our show tomorrow, we will have our Phantoms Tuesday report as their season is coming to a close. Plus, we will be talking Flyers versus Caps and seeing how these two teams are going to match up in the final game of the season. So the Wayne Simmonds stuff on Saturday, just so great. I think, we know that the Flyers are very good at all of this. And we've seen that all season long, especially, with this new management team and Dan
Mhm.
Hilferty. And he's been really, and Keith Jones have been really, really dedicated to building the community and the legacy around this fan base and the franchise. And having Wayne Simmonds back for a retirement ceremony is, like, just spot on with the kind of work that they've been doing. I thought everything was great, from the pregame presser through the ceremony, Snyder Hockey being involved, obviously, as Simmonds was heavily involved there.
Yeah, it was nice. I mean, it was nice to see him relaxed with everybody there. No, we enjoyed it. He was good. He's a humble guy. He doesn't like to speak a lot. I know people were like, we're hoping he might say something to the crowd during the game, but it's really not his way. He wasn't going to do that. So um, I really liked it. Uh, the only thing that maybe I felt like it was missing a little bit was Dean Lombardi, because Dean Lombardi was really instrumental early in his career.
Right,
Now, I understand Dean's sort of in the shadows with the Flyers, but he is there and he did help Wayne a lot. I know it was with the Kings, but that
right.
was the only thing. Otherwise, I felt it was perfect.
Yeah, and, just from what I saw from afar, it was like all the video packages they put together were really
Yeah.
nice, and, man, I got very emotional when they had, like, the, guys he used to play with who are now on other teams, like,
Yeah.
their little video clips, Braden Shen,
Oh,
Claude
yeah. It was
Giroux, of
nice.
course, and, oh my god, I have not laughed so hard when Jake Voracek, he's, like, doing it from his car,
Yeah.
like,
That was
"Alright,
just, we're
Wayne."
all like, come on, man. What do we, but it's Jake Voracek. So you realized,
It's
okay.
totally that was totally on brand for Jake
Yeah.
Voracek, so it made me smile quite a bit to
Yeah. Yeah. It
to
was
see
funny.
that and just how chill he was about it. And I look forward to some future Jake Voracek, uh, Flyers related action in the future because, man, that what a burst of energy. But yeah, you could see just Wayne Simmonds was just so thrilled to be around and,
Yeah.
with him talking about how nice it was to show his kids where he used to play
Yeah.
and all of that. How was the atmosphere in the building
It was
for
great.
him?
It was great. He really, before the third period, he pumped up the crowd a little. It was nice. I think the crowd was into it at the beginning. They really love him. It's obvious. I mean, one of the things that really got me about him was early on, was during the 2012 Winter Classic. The AHL game was outdoors too. It was, I don't know if it was the same day as the alumni. I think it might have been. Anyhow, Simmonds was out there in the crowd, like almost the last seat in the crowd, just watching that game, watching that AHL game, just as like a regular guy. And I was just like, that was impressive. Like he wasn't there, he wasn't in the press box, he wasn't in like one of the best seats. He was just in, near the back, just watching it. And I thought, yeah, that's pretty cool. He's really a hockey fan. He liked the city. That's when I knew he was really gonna like the city a lot. Like I don't know what year it was into his career. It's probably 3, 4, but that's when I knew he'd be there a long time.
Yeah, and just, seeing how much especially the Snyder hockey people appreciate him and
Yeah.
everything that he has done for that organization, and I hope to see that relationship rekindled a little bit as well
Well, they hinted
as
towards it. It's up to Wayne, really.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, we'll see. But in the meantime, the Flyers' playoff chances, as we have been saying, are very, very complicated. It's currently at a 27% chance, but I think that's like realistically higher than
That's
you
higher
would.
than I think reality is. I agree.
Yeah,
You look
in
at
terms of
27 and you're like,
yeah. But unfortunately for the Flyers, the Red Wings won in overtime on
yeah, I was watching
Saturday.
that game. That game was a back and forth affair.
Yeah.
Even Patrick Kane had a terrible penalty uh, in that game, and they got past that. So yeah, it was a crazy game.
Lucky for us and our recording schedule, none of the Sunday games have anything to do with the Eastern Conference
Right.
playoff race. So, as of now, it's really about what happens tonight,
Yes.
even before the Tuesday game for the Flyers against Washington, because as we've been talking about, all these other teams have a game in hand on the Flyers, and tonight's the night for that game in hand for
Right.
most of these teams. And so, we have the Red Wings who have a home and home to finish out their season against Montreal. So they are in Detroit, I believe, for the first of the
Yeah.
2 games. So a home game, everything on the line. They're
Yeah.
going on the road.
I think they're going to win that game. I do.
I think I think so too, but we have the Islanders against the Devils. So are the Devils gonna try and be a thorn in the Islanders'
I
side? I
mean,
don't think they can do it,
I don't
but
think they can do it. The Islanders, I think, are going to put too much out there.
And then the Nashville Predators are playing the Pittsburgh Penguins. So,
They could do
that
something to the Penguins for sure.
yeah, yeah, but if the Pens, like, win out, that's it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It depends when out and like the Islanders win a game. It's those two.
Right.
But I don't know if that's going to fully happen that way. But I think what is going to happen is I think Detroit is going to get 3 out of 4 points against the Canadians. And if the
Yeah.
Islanders win one game at that point, like if they win the Devils game, I think that's it for the Flyers.
Yeah,
So
I'm not 100% sure of that just because that puts them into the 3 spot and the wild card 2 spot is still open, and that's when all the other
put
stuff
2 in the 3 spot.
matters.
The Islanders win one more game. They have like
That puts them in the 3rd spot in
right.
the
They stay in
division.
the third, and then the Detroit, if they get 3 points, they'd have 90.
Correct. Both of those things have to happen. It's just not the Islanders winning on their own.
Right, and then the
That will
Flyers
do
would
it.
would still have to beat yeah, so and they might get the 4 points, Detroit, honestly. I just think they're getting a
Yeah,
guaranteed 3.
right, and so I think that's the biggest factor there. We also have Boston versus Washington, tonight, so that'll make a huge difference as well, and,
Yeah,
we'll see as
right.
far as
I mean, we all
how all
expect
that goes.
Boston should win that game, but like I said, the Caps were close to death already, so you never know what happens in that next game after that, to see what they're made of. That one, I'm not sure what will happen.
Yeah, I don't know either. I think that, the Caps are playing with a certain level of intensity and determination right now.
I can tell you one
Especially
thing that happened in that game that was impressive. So late in the game, when the Caps were holding on to the lead, Ovechkin
mhm.
blocked a shot with about 18 seconds left
You're
and went
talking
off
about
the
the
ice.
game against Tampa, right?
Game against Tampa. He went off the ice with about 18 seconds left and an empty net out there. So you know that he had to be really hurt to not want to be out there for the empty net to get another goal. And then, like, I want to say 4 minutes later, or 3 minutes later, it wasn't, couldn't have been 3 minutes because it was only like 20 seconds. Like 3 or 4 seconds later, he was back out there. So that was impressive to see him still have that much in the tank to rise to the occasion. That would worry me if I was a Flyers fan, because it's Alex Ovechkin. Even though he had a horrible year, he's done better in the second half. Like, those little things are the worry spots.
Yeah, I think so. It is definitely an uphill climb
Yeah.
for the Flyers here, but honestly, I think if they win out this game against the Caps on Tuesday, uh, like, at least they gave it a shot, and,
Yeah, I
uh
mean, yeah, that's all the reason at the beginning why I said just winning wasn't going to probably be enough, because they can win and it still might not be enough. They have two or three different ways that they could go down here, and it's just a
yeah.
lot. And even that last Wednesday game is a potential 3-point game. Even if everything looks good and all of a sudden they win, that game could hurt them, depending.
Yeah, that Penguins versus Islanders game on Wednesday, the day after the
Could be
Flyers'
a
last
problem.
game.
If the Penguins
Yeah.
keep winning, then that's a problem, right? So it's like,
Yep.
yeah, they have to just win. They did have it in their own destiny in their own hands, and they lost it. And so now it's, you got to rely on others. It's a tough spot to be in.
Absolutely, but, it's been fun while it lasted, and, we'll be talking about how we feel about the season overall, regardless of how everything goes, coming up on the Wednesday show, along with your mailbag questions. So, get those in if you have them. In the meantime, it is Monday, so we will continue to have our nemesis of the week. We will do that coming up next. The season may be almost over, Flyers fans, but I want to remind you, you could still win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. You can also play daily fantasy NFL, NBA, MLB, and college football, and entries can be made in under a minute. All you have to do is pick whether NHL superstars like Connor McDavid, Nikita Kucherov, or Nathan McKinnon will record more or less than their sleeper predictions for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in any given game. To win 100 times bet on Sleeper, you have to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Flyers fans. You can win 100 times your money by playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail those picks so you can start winning big. Use the promo code Locked On NHL and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code Locked On NHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Before we dig into our nemesis of the week, want to congratulate Denver University on their Frozen Four win over Boston College. It was a 2-0 shutout and to win the national championship. It was a bit of a nail biter,
It was.
I
I
would
mean,
say.
BC was pouring it on. Denver had got some great goaltending. David Carl is a great coach, like I
Oh
said.
my god.
Like, he's a real up and comer. Uh, you know, I looked at that game and I knew they had a chance. I still thought BC might be able to overcome it with their team, but they everybody, and I mean everybody, played good defense on Denver.
Yep.
So even
Yep.
even the top line, the Will Smith line, they were able to neutralize, and that's not easy to do. Like, I saw Ryan Leonard getting knocked around.
Mhm.
So you saw some things that really didn't happen to BC during the season, and that's what's great about the Frozen Four. In a one game scenario like that, sometimes the coach can really fire up a team, and Denver's won before, so it's not like it's a weird spot for them. And they did it. The big question is going to be with Massimo Rizzo, and the thing
Right.
is, uh, a disadvantage for the Flyers is they're not going to be able to burn a year of ELC,
Right.
because, like, some teams would have him come in and play Monday, or at least offer that to him and then see what he says, but they're not going to offer that to him. So then you have to hope he wants to play for the Flyers. And we've had no indication one way or the other what he hopes or wants because they just acquired him in a trade. It doesn't mean that that's his lifelong dream, right? So I think it's a 50-50 thing. I think they do need to get him signed in the next couple weeks because I think if it kind of goes into the summer and he ends up going back, then he's just going to go free agent because he's going to have the choice of anything at that point. So that's and I, again, so if I'm the Flyers, I'm calling already just to say, hey, let's set up a meeting, if nothing else, and chat. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. If we hear anything about that. But that's what I would do because he's a really good player and he showed really good defense yesterday,
Yeah.
besides coming back off an injury and really having an impact. He didn't get on the score sheet, but that's okay. I thought he had a really good impact. And that's why, I think he'll be like a solid third line NHLer, and you don't want to just let those guys slip through the cracks if you can help it. So who knows? We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I wonder if, Bobby Brink could be any influence here or in which
He
way
used to
that
be his
could
line
go.
mate. I mean, it's
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there, but we are definitely on a Massimo Rizzo watch,
Yeah.
as of now, and we'll see what happens there. But moving over to our nemesis of the week. Last week, we were in the throes of the collapse before we got a couple wins under our belt. And so I talked a lot about learning the lessons that you need to from it and moving forward and how important that was. And that was kind of my nemesis last week. I think they did to some degree. I think
Mhm.
there are some lessons still need to be learned, but I think as far as coming together as a team and structural issues and things like that, they fixed a lot of it. So I am very pleased with the reaction to my nemesis from last week. This week, it's being zen, letting the chips fall where they may. We just talked about all the possibilities there and just went out strong. And I think like having a clear head about this week and this season is going to be very important and not just overreacting to everything.
Yeah, my nemesis is just the power play. It's awful. That 5-on-3 was deplorable.
Yeah.
Uh, Having Jamie Drysdale bring up the puck only to slingshot it back to Travis Konecny makes no sense in any world. If you've ever watched Drysdale on the power play, let him pierce the defense there because the problem was, and again, I'm not a hockey genius here, but the problem was the minute he slingshot it back to Konecny, three guys went up on the line to smack Konecny and get the puck. Like they knew
Yeah.
exactly what was going to happen. When you have Drysdale have them puck, you don't know where he's going to go into the zone. You don't know what side. He's a great passer. What if he gets behind the net? They It seemed like they had fewer guys on the ice for the 5-on-3, but that whole time they only had 3 shots on goal. And it's the nemesis of the year. It's it's the biggest nemesis for this club. And honestly, if we hear that Rocky Thompson's coming back, it's going to be a big problem in the media and with the fan base because there's no defending it. You can't say we just simply don't have enough talent because you almost have enough talent to make the playoffs. So you definitely have enough talent to not be in the 30s in the power play. You should be at least 20. And then, we'd probably all lay off at that point.
Yeah, that's definitely a spoiler alert. If we were to name a nemesis of the season there,
Yeah.
it would
It's a
most
contender.
certainly be the power play. I don't think there's any question there. But yeah, like I just like the fact that they have not even been able to incrementally improve this thing has
No,
been mind-boggling at
it
best. And you're
is.
right, the slingshot is useless, and I don't know why anybody does it anymore. It was a thing that worked in the league for a while, but
Yeah.
its time has passed.
Yes.
People know how
It's
to
easy
coach
to
against
defend
it.
it. They all kinda go to the diamond
Yeah,
now, and
yeah,
it just doesn't
yeah.
work.
It does not, and as we have said many times before, things wear out their welcome in the league and new things come to replace it, and the slingshot play on the power plays time has long since passed, something we should bury and move on from. But yeah, that will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. Tomorrow we'll talk about that last game of the season against the Washington Capitals. We'll have some of our end of season thoughts heading into that game, and it's Phantoms Tuesday. They have a week left in their season, and what are the implications for their playoff race there? As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So if you've got mailbag questions, you can send them in via Twitter at Lockdown Flyers. You can email us at lockdownflyers@gmail or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel, and I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russell at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus national shows covering every league, like Locked On NHL. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Have a great day, everyone.